Hello again. I'm Rose Ruska. To my grandchildren, you know, I'm known as Nonna. Today we're going to make almond biscotti. This is my variation on the recipe. They're a lovely dry almond biscuits and great with a cup of tea. We're going to go through the ingredients first, and then I'm going to show you how we blanch the almonds and toast them. So I've got 125 grams worth of almonds, just natural almonds, no salt on them. About 125 grams of butter, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3 eggs, 1.5 cups of plain flour, and then 3/4 of a cup of self-raising flour. A little bit of salt, about 3 tablespoons of brandy, and I use a little bit of almond essence. Okay, the first thing we need to do is blanch the almonds. That means we have to take the skin off. The easiest way to do that is put them into a little bit of water, put them on the stove on a medium heat for about 5 minutes. I've boiled the almonds for about 5 minutes. You can see there. I'm just going to drain them, and then I'm going to bring them back over to our workbench. So I take the almonds that have been boiling for a few minutes. I'm going to put them onto a cloth. I find this the quickest way to do them, and also so you don't burn your hands. I use a cloth and I just push the almond kernel away from its skin and pop them on a tray because we're going to roast them for about 5 minutes. Now, when you've taken all the skin off, just spread them on a tray like that. We're going to put them on the top shelf of the oven so that they get toasted. Now be really careful because they can toast very quickly and you'll burn the lot. While our almonds are toasting in the oven, we're going to prepare the other ingredients. We're going to chop the butter up. I like to cut it up in just little pieces. If it's really soft, it's better. And we're just going to put that straight into the mixer, and we're going to mix it with the sugar. You will have to mix it for about probably 6 to 7 minutes until it's nice and creamy. So put the sugar in, and it get a little bit noisy. I'm going to add the eggs one at a time. The mixture is quite creamy, so we add the eggs one at a time and we continue beating. All right, once the mixture is nice and creamy, like that, we're going to add the flour. Good idea to have a sifter, just like that'll do. So we'll pop in the plain flour first, just sift it. I fold that through and then I put the next lot of flour in. When the almonds are ready, they just have to go a light brown and nicely toasted. We take them out of the oven and just let them cool because we're going to chop them up. After the plain flour, we're going to add the self-raising flour. Again, just put it through the sifter. Just like that. We're going to add a good pinch of salt. We're going to add our brandy and just a little bit of the almond essence. Now use sparingly, this is quite strong, so I just put a couple of drops. And then we've got to mix it all up. It's going to be very thick and quite dry, but that's what we want. And we're going to bring the almonds over to the chopping board now that they've cooled down. And we're just going to give them a really rough chop. This does not have to be perfect in any way, just a rough chop, like that. And then we're going to put them into our egg mixture with the flour. We add the almonds to the mixture. As you see, it's quite firm, and maybe with a wooden spoon, you can stir it just till they're mixed. This requires a bit of muscle. Now, we're going to make 2 long loaves out of this mixture. We're going to put it into a preheated oven of about 375 or 180 degrees Celsius and cook them from about 20-25 minutes. This is the tricky bit, and this is where you need to get your hands dirty. So I always like to wet my hands. I get the mixture and I start making 2 logs. If you wet your hands, you find it doesn't stick to your hands so much. So there's 1 log. Try and make sure there's no gap. Smooth it out with your hands. And start the other log. And try and make them the same thickness as well, so it cooks evenly. The logs can be quite, they don't have to be too fat. They can be a little bit narrow. As you see, I'm trying to keep it fairly even, but it doesn't have to be perfect because we want that rustic look. This is what they're going to look like just before we pop them in the oven. Make sure the oven has been preheated. Put them on the middle shelf. And we'll check them in about 25 minutes. When the almond logs are cooked, you can see they've turned a nice brown. Take them out of the oven and bring them over to your chopping board. Take them off the tray. I'm going to take them off the parchment paper as well. And while they're still warm, we need to cut them at a diagonal. It is important to cut them while they're warm. If you cut them at a diagonal, you get a nice shape. After you cut them, place them down on a tray because they're going to go back in the oven to dry out. Careful not to break them. As you see, cut on the diagonal makes them very interesting. So do the same with the second log. Cut in on a diagonal. We're going to put them on a tray, as I said, and put them back in the oven. When they're on the tray, put them back in the oven. I put them on a slightly cooler oven, so maybe about 150 degrees, and I do turn them. So maybe 20 minutes and turn them after about 10 minutes. I've taken the biscuits out of the oven. You can see they're very dry and very crunchy. Enjoy.